Hello, my Bill 5000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with another lazy masquerade. This one is titled Boston's Most Disturbing Unsolved Mystery, the story of Karina Homer. All right, I'm excited for today's story, so go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, cut up with something special. Let's get disturbed. Let's get disturbed. Yes.
Today's video is sponsored by Raycon. If you're looking to
We're gonna skip past his commercials. He got long ones. He's got long commercials. La 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 la. There we go.
we often hear about blessings in disguise, a
Yes,
minor accident that leads to a doctor examining you, only to uncover a ticking time bomb in
that is very true. That happens. And I was at the doctor's office a while ago. My doctor gets on to me just like they do any other person that goes in there about everything. It's like you can get this and you can get this, and if you're not tested for it, no one would ever know until one day, somehow, somewhere, some way, we're like, hey, let's go have a test done for this, and oh, no sense doing the surgery because you're dying. It's like, why would you tell me this shit like that? Don't tell me shit like that.
your brain that would have otherwise gone unnoticed. Missing your train home from work when you're exhausted, only to meet the love of your life on the platform. Such stories aren't uncommon, but it is rare to hear about curses in disguise, seemingly positive events or encounters that actually lead to our own ruination. For example, did you know that winning the lottery dramatically increases your odds of being murdered by a stranger? By
Really,
about 20 times, according to some studies. And
really.
that's not necessarily because of the money itself, but because of what it buys you. Today, we'll be exploring the case of one such lucky individual, Karina Holmer, a young Swedish woman who had no idea her prize winnings would buy her a first-class ticket to a terrible fate.
Oh fuck.
19-year-old Karina was a kind-hearted, adventurous spirit, described by those who knew her as the sweetest, kindest person. Born and raised in a small village in Skillingard, this young Swede had big dreams of leaving her homeland and exploring the world while she was still young. In 1996, Lady Luck smiled on Karina when she won the equivalent of $1,500 on a lotto scratch card. Not the biggest jackpot, but enough to make a huge difference in her life.
Fuck yeah. Dude, you know how much I need? Yeah, dude, I can do so much with $1,500. You wouldn't even believe. Put $1,500 in my hand right now, right now. Go ahead, put it right there in the hand, dude. I would have so much shit. I'm not even gonna lie.
With some newfound cash in her pocket, Karina was finally able to make her dreams a reality. In March of that same year, she caught a plane from Sweden to the US, ready to begin a new and exciting chapter in her life. But as we all know, fate can have a cruel sense of humour. And despite her seemingly serendipitous lottery win, Karina's good fortune would soon turn sour. After arriving in the States, Karina chose to settle in Boston, Massachusetts, and quickly found work as an au pair in the affluent suburb of Dover.
Now, au pair is that like the live-in nanny that does like the tutoring and all that stuff? That is that an au pair? Basically, a live-in nanny, kind of like slash tutor and all that good shit.
Her employers were Frank Rapp, a commercial photographer, and Susan Nichter, a prominent painter. Karina spent most of her weekdays taking care of their two children, whilst the couple got on with their creative work.
That sounds
The
nice.
weekends, however, were hers to spend as she wished.
Fuck yeah.
Being a friendly and outgoing person, It didn't take Karina long to form a close network of friends with whom she would often socialize with in the evenings. She even began diving into the Boston dating scene, and had a couple of admittedly short-lived relationships with a local policeman and a man from the south of the city. All that's to say, Karina had quickly settled into her life in the US, and had become comfortable and familiar with her new surroundings. On Friday, June 20th, 1996, Karina and 3 of her new friends went to Zanzibar, a trendy night spot in downtown Boston, hoping to enjoy a night of drinking and dancing.
Okay.
The group, who were all mostly nannies from overseas as well, met up at Karina's loft. I say Karina's. The lot actually belonged to her employer, Frank, who let her use it during the weekends. A private space for her to enjoy on her days off, away from the children whom she had to take care of.
Man, they sound like amazing people to work for. Did they murder her? This is look, okay, I've been doing reactions for a minute now. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. The more amazing they sound, the more they sound, the more they sound, the more they sound, the worse it's going to be.
Rest of the week. Located on A Street in the South End, it also happened to be very close to Boston's nightlife district. Karina got dressed up in her favourite skin-tight, silver-coloured trousers, and after enjoying a few drinks with her friends at the loft, the group stumbled to nearby Zanzibar on Boylston Place. Karina's mature appearance, confident demeanour, and fake ID meant she had little trouble getting inside the club.
So there. Yes, my name is Denise Chan. And you are glad to meet me.
But cheating her way into Zanzibar would prove to be the biggest mistake of this 19-year-old's young life.
Oh, fuck. Zanzibar.
By all accounts, the group had a fun night inside the bar, socializing, dancing, and consuming a lot of cocktails. So many, in fact, that it wasn't till closing time that they all realized Karina was no longer with them.
Where'd she go?
At some point during the evening, she must have left without saying goodbye.
That's fucked up.
That was unusual, they thought. Still, this was 1996, and they had no way to contact her. They thought little of it, and figured that she had just gotten tired. Her loft was within walking distance after all. After exiting Zanzibar, they all went their separate ways, back to their own apartments. Nobody heard from Karina for the next 30 hours. Then, on Sunday, June 22nd, at approximately 1:30 p.m, a stomach-churning discovery was made.
Oh shit.
A homeless man in the Fenway Park area was out searching trash cans for recyclable containers. Inside a dumpster, just outside of an apartment building on Lansdowne Street, he came upon an object stuffed inside a black garbage bag. The top half of a blonde woman's torso. Her body had been sawn in half at the waist, just below the ribs. Her spine was the only bone that had been severed. The lower half of her body wasn't inside the dumpster, and despite a thorough search of the surrounding area, neither her legs nor lower waist could be located.
What the
The
fuck?
victim's upper half had been meticulously cleaned, scrubbed of all dirt, makeup, and, crucially, DNA evidence. Most of her blood had been drained. Red marks around her wrist indicated that her hands had been bound. Forensic experts were able to find a partial fingerprint on the black garbage bag she had been wrapped in, but frustratingly, it didn't match with anyone on the national database. Local news stations quickly began reporting that a blonde woman's torso had been found near Fenway Park. The story caught the attention of Frank and Susan, Karina's employers.
Oh damn.
They tried contacting their Swedish au pair, but to no avail. They then contacted the authorities and told them that the remains may well belong to their nanny. And unfortunately, they were right. The torso did indeed belong to Karina Holmer, the young woman whose new life in America had been cut tragically short. Karina's family back in Sweden were immediately informed of their daughter's demise, and an investigation into her slaying quickly began. After a thorough examination, the coroner was able to determine that Karina had been strangled with a rope or a cord prior to being cut in two, probably by someone using a power saw. This information led detectives to
Man. Can't even use Find My Phone to get her. That's awful. Oh, God. Like, did someone drug her? Take her out there? Was she. Oh my God.
consider two possibilities. One, that Karina had been slain by an opportunistic serial killer, one who liked to kill with a rope rather than his hands. Or two, that Karina had accidentally been killed after going to bed with someone. Specifically, a person who liked to use bondage equipment. Then, after realizing he had strangled Karina during their session, that individual panicked, and using a saw, sliced the poor woman in half, either believing it would make her easier to dispose of, or wanting to eliminate some crucial DNA evidence from her lower half. The first order of business for detectives was determining whether the perp was someone Karina knew, or whether it was a stranger. To do that, they'd need to retrace Karina's last known movements from that fateful Friday night. But that would prove to be more challenging than anyone anticipated.
Yeah, because
Karina
didn't have cell phones back then, so you can't triangulate. She dipped without the friends knowing. They said she lived within walking distance, so maybe from the club to where she lives, check out the businesses and stuff like that to see who has CCTV, traffic cameras and stuff, see if anything can be caught on the direction to her home first, and then so many mile radius after. Damn, you forget that back in the day you didn't have cell phones and all that shit to where you could just triangulate and find someone and smartwatches and yeah.
His friends, and all of the other bar patrons, seemed to have conflicting stories about her departure from Zanzibar, making it nearly impossible for detectives to figure out how, and more crucially whom, she had left with. One of her friends recalled seeing a very intoxicated Karina stepping out of Zanzibar at approximately 3 a.m, accompanied by an older man whom she had never seen before. According to this friend, Karina said that she was going to an after-party with this unknown male. A second patron said that Karina had actually fallen asleep inside the venue's bathroom and was subsequently kicked out by a bouncer. A third recalled seeing her exit by herself sometime between 2 and 3 a.m. All we know for certain is that after leaving, Karina tried to re-enter the bar, but was turned away because it was almost closing time. After being denied re-entry, multiple eyewitnesses reported seeing a girl in silver pants, quote, bouncing around an alleyway close to the venue, dancing with a homeless man and complaining that her friends had abandoned her. After that, her movements become hazy again.
I'm just sitting there wondering what's going through the homeless man's head. Like, this is the best time ever. What the hell's wrong with this bitch? Why is she doing this to me? Oh no.
One witness claims to have seen her talking with 4 men inside a parked car. These men were apparently inviting her to another party.
Oh shit.
A final witness, a man who had accompanied Karina and her friends to Zanzibar, claims to have spotted her sitting in a grey Mitsubishi with 2 other men as everyone filed out of the closed venue. Apparently, he even leaned in through an open window and told her, "Let's go. You came with us. We're leaving." One of the unknown males in the vehicle responded, "Get away from the car, you little bitch, or I'll crush your fucking head."
Holy shit, get away from the car, you little bitch. I'm gonna crush your fucking head. I'm like, bro, have you seen my melon? Try. Try. Better hope you got some good tread on them shoes. If not, you just gonna slide right off that shit. Bitch.
It's unknown how reliable any of these witness reports actually are, but given that Karina may have been alive for as long as 24 hours after she was last seen, it's strongly suspected that she was indeed driven to a second location. With so many different versions of Karina's final movements, told by witnesses whose memories were admittedly a little foggy, it was
Yeah, you asking a bunch of drunk ass motherfuckers what happened to a different drunk ass motherfucker, and everyone's like, "Oh, what happened? I already know." And they're taking like 15 different things that they have seen throughout the day and combining it all into one actual scenario. And it's like, yeah, yeah. Uh,
impossible to build an accurate timeline of events. As such, investigators turned to the most credible witnesses at the scene, the ones with perfect recall: Zanzibar's security cameras. After combing through the grainy CCTV footage from that night, they found images of Karina outside the bar, chatting with a man in his 40s who had a large, white dog with him. Both this man and his dog were dressed as Superman. The figure was soon identified as Herb Whitten, a man from Andover who was known to the locals. He would often dress himself and his pooch up in superhero costumes and hang around outside Zanzibar, chatting with whoever he could.
that's
The
weird.
footage seemed to suggest that he had offered Karina a ride home that night. Yet, despite his eccentric behaviour, Herb was ultimately harmless, and since he had a tight alibi, he was swiftly ruled out as a possible suspect. Herbert would go on to end his own existence less than a year later. Having to deal with the fallout of being a suspect in a murder case was too much for him to bear.
Oh shit.
His lawyer described him as a decent guy who had some problems. The lead detective on the case,
Damn.
Thomas O'Leary, simply said he didn't do it. The homeless man who Karina was seen dancing with, a gentleman by the name of Juan Polo, was also tracked down and ruled out as a possible suspect. Whoever had taken Karina's life must have had access to a private building, a place nearby where he could privately dismember and drain her. Juan Polo had no such place to take her to, and didn't own any tools which he would have needed to bifurcate her. Unfortunately, the surveillance footage didn't turn up any further leads. Given this incident took place in the mid-90s,
Couldn't there have been other businesses that might have had CCTV footage though? I mean, as a cop, you should be able to be like, "Hey, give me the tapes," like that, and make him do it.
the footage from inside Zanzibar was very grainy and limited. Not to mention, there weren't any text messages for investigators to comb through for clues, no selfies to examine from inside the venue, no GPS signals to trace. In short, there was very little real evidence to work with.
They actually had to go snooping for clues. Being a cop back in the day must have been so much harder. You know who they was talking to? No. Motherfucker wrote letters. No one will ever know. No. Does anyone know where he's been in the past like 6 months? He rides a horse. No. Them sons of bitches can walk up like anything. No, we don't know. Yeah, and nowadays it's like, oh yeah, they went there. They was there for a really long time on that night. GPS tells us. Then cell phone never came back from there. Never came back. Well, two went out. One came back. The person who owns the other cell phone has not been seen for like a week. What'd you do with them? Simple. Two phones go out, one come back. The one that came back's the murderer.
And not only were Karina's footsteps after exiting Zanzibar still a mystery, but the authorities didn't even know exactly where or when her life had been taken. With no crime scene, all they really had to go on were rumours and speculation. One thing detectives did learn during their investigation, though, was that Karina's life in the US hadn't been all sunshine and rainbows.
Why not?
In fact, The young woman was planning on cutting her trip short and moving back to Sweden that August. Karina had written letters to her family back home, saying the American dream wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and that she missed being around her nearest and dearest. In one letter, she wrote, "There's always so much cleaning, and I think I'm stressed all the time, so this isn't exactly what I thought it would be."
Dirty ass Americans always need them picked up after sons of bitches. It's so stressful being American. I want to go home. We do make it look easy, don't we?
But it was another letter that she had sent to a friend back in Sweden, which really caught the investigators' attention. In that letter, addressed to her friend, Ulrika Svensson, Karina said that the real reason she wanted to leave America was because, quote, something terrible had happened. She didn't elaborate further, stating that she would tell Ulrika everything when she returned home. Sadly, she never got the chance. The discovery of this letter left everyone confused. Frank Rapp and Susan Nichter, the couple who employed her, hadn't noticed any signs that Karina was in distress or facing troubles. With few other leads to go on, detectives decided to
Question the employers, maybe him or her or both did something to her. And he let her stay in his studio, his loft, or whatever it was. He would have a key to it. They would have the ability to go in there and do absolutely whatever the fuck they wanted. Damn.
question Frank and Susan further, asking them for specifics about Karina's life in the US. To their surprise, however, rather than cooperate with their investigation, Frank and Susan instead lawyered up and refused to answer any questions. To some people, that might sound like the sensible thing to do. After all, even if you're innocent of a crime, if the cops consider you a possible suspect, it's wise to get a lawyer and protect yourself from being implicated.
And I mean, okay, devil's advocate and non-devil's advocate. Non-devil's advocate first. They got a lawyer because they're like, oh fuck, we're gonna be screwed. They're gonna realize we did it. Yeah, they're not gonna want to talk without a lawyer because they don't want to catch themselves up in some bullshit. Because they shifty, they shady. Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate now. It is his loft. She was out, she was drinking, she could have made it back there, she could have not made it back there. But when you've exhausted all other options, it's time to start branching out. It's his loft. It's his studio, whatever the case may be. She was staying there. I would be questioning. She takes care of their kids. I would be questioning. She works for them. She's basically a live-in nanny. I would be questioning.
But other people think their reaction smells fishy,
Yeah.
and their suspicions aren't without merit. Karina's male employer, Frank Rapp, had something of a reputation. Other young au pairs who had previously worked for the family described him as creepy, a sleazeball who had tried his luck on all of them. Many of them suspect that he may have made advances to Karina as well. Some have even speculated that Karina's relationship with Frank may have evolved into more than just a professional one, and that Frank's decision to let her stay at his downtown loft on the weekends may have not just been for her benefit, but for his as well. Amateur investigators have theorized that Frank may have even gotten Karina pregnant. Not wanting such a scandal to ruin his marriage or career, he decided to have his Swedish au pair taken out, with her lower half being disposed of to destroy any potential evidence. That's all, of course, purely speculative. But here's something that is genuinely suspicious. It was revealed that on Monday the 23rd, just one day after Karina's torso was found, that a dumpster behind Frank and Susan's house caught fire. Believing that the deceased's former employers may have been trying to destroy some evidence linked to the case, the authorities investigated the charred contents of the can. Unfortunately, everything inside had been completely incinerated, burnt to a crisp, and no meaningful evidence could be collected. Could this far have been an eerie coincidence? Or did the family that Karina worked for know
I
more
don't
about her
know.
demise than they were letting on?
Oh my God. Like everyone did it. It was everyone. I don't know how, but everybody in the world somehow helped had a hand in this. I don't know. I don't know. Everyone sounds guilty. Everyone is guilty.
As I mentioned, the wife, Susan Nichter, is a painter. A website displaying some of her artwork is still up and running to this day, and a couple of the pieces on it are curious. Like this piece, which she titled Messenger, which depicts a blonde-haired woman being approached by an angel, one that resembles her husband, Frank Rapp. Another piece, this one, has the eerie title, Girl in Can. Given where Karina was found, that's a bit of an odd choice. Levitation Lasso depicts a woman with a rope that looks more like a saw bisecting her at the waist. Another painting, which has since been taken down from the site, depicted a shocked-looking man carrying the upside-down remains of a woman. In the shadows, another figure is seen consoling the man. Now, Susan may have simply been drawing inspiration from her late employee's story, and these paintings shouldn't be taken as some sort
Possibly. Possibly. That's the thing about artists. They a lot of them will put what's going on in their life into their art. So that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. But was these paintings also maybe a way of admitting guilt to something she knew?
of admission of guilt, but the parallels between these paintings and the case are, at the least, disturbing. It's important to note that neither Frank nor Susan have ever been formally charged in connection with Karina's slaying. The final suspect that web sleuths like to bring up is Karina's former boyfriend, the aforementioned Boston cop. From what I can gather, the authorities did look into this man and determined that he wasn't a suspect. But it is worth noting that Boston PD were notoriously corrupt in the 90s. Could they simply have been protecting one of their own? A jaded ex-partner of Karina's who wanted revenge. One who could hide behind his badge. With no details about him online, it's hard to say one way or the other. Sadly, like so many cases from this pre-internet era, or at least the era before the internet truly took off, there's just very little information available, and even less people discussing it. And just like with so many other cases, without any real evidence to work with, Karina's case didn't just go cold. It froze over. We're no closer to knowing who took this young woman's life now than we were 27 years ago. And in the place of answers, we're left with a plethora of questions. When exactly did Karina leave Zanzibar, and who did she exit with? Where was she taken to, and who had taken her? Where was the crime scene, and how long had she been kept alive before she was cut in half? What was the terrible thing that Karina alluded to in her letter that she wrote to her friend? Did anyone in her life know more than they were letting on? Karina Holmer came to the United States with big dreams, but what was supposed to be a new chapter in this young woman's life turned out to be its closing page.
Came here with big dreams and it ate her alive. It's fucking awful.
And at least one person
Monsters come in all shapes and forms and sizes. Never did that to that poor girl. True monster.
out there knows the truth, and is, in all likelihood, still walking free, with the knowledge of what it's like to saw a human being in half, locked away in his head. It's as haunting today as it was back then, if not more so, said Boston prosecutor David Meir. Because no one's come forward. Because whoever is responsible for this, whether it's one person or more than one person, has apparently not slipped up and said anything to anyone. And there's no crime scene. There's no ability to determine with any definite basis how she was killed, why she was killed, where she was killed, never mind who killed her. Today, 27 years later, Karina's killer remains unidentified, and the bottom half of her body still hasn't been found. Above the dumpster where Karina's torso was discovered, there now rests a sign, and although it's an official one, it almost comes off as a dark joke, left there by Karina's killer, and aimed at the investigators, who failed to catch him. No dumping. Police take notice.
No dumping, police take notice. That was okay. Okay. I know, I mean, okay. That's fuck off. Damn. Alright. I liked it. Oh, that was a good one. Alright, if y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please leave a thumbs up. If you're a fan of the spooky, scary, strange, deranged, some really fucked up stuff that just makes you sit back and wonder, what? Think about subscribing, because I go through that a lot. I don't want to do it by myself no more. So we're going to do it together as a team. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. It could have been so many different people. It could have been the dude, it could have been the wife, it could have been a stranger, it could have been the homeless person, it could have been one of the friends, it could have been the two strangers. Oh, good lord. It's so many. Which ways? Which directions? Did she go this way? Did she go this way? Well, what would have happened if she would have went this way? Or because you don't really know what happened, so you're just trying to guess, and some guesses is going to be really fucked up. I don't like that. This poor family, the poor girl. I mean, at least they still have part of her to bury, get some sort of piece of some sorts, but the who, the what, the why, the where, the when, the where the rest of it's at is a whole other story.